Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion. My name is Afif Nurda Medini, and I will be your moderator for today's session, titled The Architecture of the Feed. So, today we are dissecting a critical question that directly impacts our generation today. Does social media design actively harm young adult mental health, or does the fault lie with how we choose to use it? The issue hits at the very heart of the UN Sustainable Development Goal 3, which is good health and well being. Specifically, Target 3.4, which explicitly mandates the global promotion of mental health and well being. To frame our discussion, a landmark in 2023 study by Dr. Jean Twenge, published in the Journal of Adolescence, demonstrated a direct statistical correlation between the rise of algorithm hyper-personalized feeds and a sharp increase in psychological distress and sleep deprivation among young adults. This forces us to ask, are we looking at public health crisis engineered by design or a failure of personal digital discipline? To unpack these contestable questions, I am joined by four brilliant student panelists. Nur Nadira Ayuni, a specialist in behavioral psychology. Nur Nabila Akila, specializing in UI UX digital design. Saidatul Shifa, an expert in digital sociology and youth culture. And Mayuri, specializing in public health policy. Each panelist will have 2 minutes to state their core position. And let us begin with round one. Ayuni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. My position is very clear, which is social media platforms are deliberately engineered to bypass conscious human agency, making psychological harm an inherent feature, not a user bug. As a basis for this, we must look at a 2018 study by Dr. Anna Lamb from Stanford University on dopamine dynamics. Platforms utilize what psychologists call variable reward schedules, which is the exact same mechanism used in slot machines. When you swipe down to refresh a feed, the anticipation of what might appear triggers a dopamine spike. For young adults whose prefrontal cortex are still developing, this constant disruption of the brain's reward system directly correlates with heightened anxiety, short attention spans, and compulsive checking behaviors. We are not simply choosing to use apps poorly. Our neurobiology is the one that being actively exploited by design. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Building on Nadira's psychological point, I argue that the physical interface design itself remove user choice entirely. Let's reference a key to 2021 report by the Center for Human Technology, which analyzed dark pattern in interface design. Features like infinite scroll and autoplay are deliberately engineered to eliminate what we call stopping cues. In traditional media, finishing a chapter or a video gives the brain a natural pause to reflect and disconnect. Infinite scroll completely obliterates that boundaries. Furthermore, notification delivery is mathematically optimized by AI to hit your screen precisely when you are most vulnerable to distraction. When the very architecture of a digital space is built to deny you an exit ramp, blaming the user for lacking willpower is completely illogical. The fault lies entirely with the blueprints. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator, but I must respectfully present an alternative perspective. While I acknowledge the persuasive nature of design, my position is that the primary fault lies in user urgency and our collective digital literacy. According to a comprehensive 2022 study by Dr. Sonia Livingstone at the London School of Economics, social media platforms are neutral social tools whose impacts are heavily mediated by the user's existing psychological traits and lifestyle choices. Millions of young adults use these exact same platforms daily to build supportive communities, access mental health, advocacy, and foster creative expression without succumbing to clinical depression. The design provides a landscape, but the path we choose to walk on is ours. Cultivating digital mindfulness, setting application time limits, and curating a positive feed are entirely within human control. We cannot blame the tool for how poorly we choose to wield it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mia. From a public health standpoint, my argument occupies the middle ground. The design is undoubtedly aggressive, but the core harm stems from a lack of systematic regulatory oversight and collective digital health standards. To support this, a 2022 policy briefly by the World Health Organization regarding mental health and digital environments highlights that young adults lack structured institutional safeguards to protect them from aggressive digital economies, just as we do not rely solely on personal responsibility to stop people from consuming toxic food or driving unsafe cars. We cannot rely on individual willpower to fight multi-billion-dollar algorithmic systems. The design causes harm because it operates in a legislative vacuum. If we regulate the design parameters such as banning algorithmic feeds or minors, we protect mental health systematically. The harm is a failure of structure protection, not just individual weakness. Thank you.
Thank you to all our panelists for those compelling opening statements. We now move into part two, our open exchange. Ayuni and Akila, you've argued that the design is fundamentally predatory, leaving users virtually defenseless. Shifa, however, contends that millions negative of these spaces safely through personal agency and digital literacy. Let's open the floor. How do the design critics respond to Shifa's point about personal accountability?
If I may jump in about Shifa, while I respect the idea of digital literacy, it overlooks structural inequality. In a 2020 study by Urban and Brzezinski, it was shown that vulnerable populations such as young adults already dealing with academic stress or minor anxiety that are disproportionately damaged by this algorithm triggers. So, telling an already vulnerable student to just exercise digital mindfulness against a supercomputer algorithm is like telling someone to fight off a hurricane with an umbrella.
I see your point, Ayuni, but I have to push back. If the algorithm were purely toxic and inescapable, we would see uniform devastation across all users. But we don't. A 2021 Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health study actually found that social media use was positively associated with social well-being, provided that the user was actively engaged in mindful rather than passive mindless scrolling. The agency lies in moving from passive consumption to active, intentional creation.
But Shifa, how can a user be intentional when the system is designed to distort reality? Let's talk about let's talk about beauty and lifestyle filters. The UI encouraged automated face turning. A 2022 study in the Body Image Journal proved that exposure to this modified image alters a young adult's perception of reality within minutes. You can just literally see your way out of dysmorphia when the platform default setting is disability.
This is exactly why personal agency is an incomplete solution. Shiba Akila's points prove that the default settings of these platforms are inherently commercialized to exploit insecurity for profit. Therefore, expecting a 19-year-old university student to constantly fight the interface design is unrealistic. We need a systemic intervention.
An excellent point, Yiri and Shifa. Briefly, how do you see structural regulation blending in your with your user agency?
I agree that regulation can help Yuri, but regulations take years to pass. In the immediate term, empowerment is our fastest shield. Educating users on how to actively manipulate the algorithm, like intentionally blocking toxic content or turning off notifications, puts the power back in the students' hands right now.
Thank you all. So, this brings our intense and deeply enlightening panel to a close. In summarizing today's discourse, it is clear that we have found one point of genuine consensus. The current status quo of young adult digital consumption is unsustainable, and ignoring its impact completely violates our global commitment to SDG 3. Both sides agree that social media platforms are not neutral. Public squares that are highly engineered, profit driven environments that significantly alter human behavior. However, we are left with one irreconcilable difference that separates our panelists, the locus of responsibility. One side firmly maintains that the systematic predatory nature of UI and UX design and dopamine manipulation strips the user's true choice, demanding legislative overhaul and corporate accountability. The other side powerfully argues that humans' agency remains the ultimate safeguard, asserting that through rigorous digital literacy and intentional usage, young adults can master the tool rather than be mastered by it. Ultimately, we may have not forced a singular resolution today, but we have illuminated the path forward. As university students navigating this exact digital landscape, the choice to adapt our habits, question the interface we use, and advocate for healthier digital spaces belongs to us. Thank you to our wonderful panelists, Ayuni, Akila, Shifa, and Yiri. And thank you to our audience for your time and engagement. Have a wonderful day.